The zip tie bit into my 15-year-old son's wrist so hard his knuckles turned a ghostly shade of white while a woman in a neon security vest screamed in his face about trespassing. I watched from the porch as Leo's eyes welled with a mixture of terror and confusion because we had lived in this neighborhood for exactly 3 hours and he was only trying to find the trash bins. This was the welcome committee from hell, and I could already feel the adrenaline turning my blood into liquid fire. I slammed the front door shut behind me and leaped off the porch steps, hitting the manicured lawn with a thud that vibrated up my spine. The air in this gated community smelled like fresh-cut grass and expensive entitlement, a scent that usually made me feel successful, but right now it just smelled like a trap. "Slow down right there, buddy, or you are next in line for a citation," shouted the man standing next to the screaming woman. He was wearing a tactical belt that looked like it was weighed down by every gadget sold on an infomercial and a badge that looked suspiciously like it came from a cereal box. I stopped 5 feet away, taking a deep breath to keep my voice from shaking even though my heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. "You have exactly 5 seconds to cut those ties off my son before this becomes a kidnapping charge," I said, my voice low and dangerous. The woman, who I would later learn was the infamous Margaret, the self-appointed president of the Pinecrest Homeowners Association, let out a sharp, jagged laugh that sounded like glass breaking in a blender. "Oh, listen to this one, Brenda," she sneered, looking at her companion who was busy filming the whole thing on a smartphone. "He thinks he can threaten us while his brat is out here casing the joint without a registered resident lanyard. Do you even know where you are? This is a private community and we have a zero-tolerance policy for vagrancy." "Vagrancy? My son is wearing a Harvard sweatshirt and holding a bag of recycling, for God's sake." Leo just looked at me, his lip quivering as he whispered, "Dad, please, just make them stop." The man with the fake badge stepped forward, puffing out a chest that was mostly made of processed deli meats and unearned confidence. "I am Officer Miller of the HOA Safety Task Force, and your son is under citizen's arrest for failure to identify and suspicion of intent to commit a felony." "You want to talk about kidnapping? We are performing a civic duty. Now back off before I use the pepper spray." I looked at the spray canister hanging from his belt, and then at the way Margaret was smirking as if she had just won a prize at the fair. The absurdity of it was suffocating. Was this real? Was I actually standing in a million-dollar neighborhood watching 2 civilians play dress-up cop with my son's freedom? I took a slow, intentional breath, inhaling the scent of the blooming jasmine nearby, and tried to steady my hands. "Look at the house behind me," I said, pointing to the colonial we had just closed on. "That is my house. We moved in today. The keys are in my pocket and the deed is in the county office. You are harassing a minor on his own property." Margaret stepped closer, her perfume a cloying cloud of artificial roses that made my eyes water. "We saw the moving truck, but we didn't see you. We saw a suspicious youth wandering near the side gate, and in Pinecrest we don't take chances with our property values. You should have checked in at the HOA office first. Until then, he stays in custody until the Real police arrive to transport him to juvenile hall." She actually believed it. She actually thought her little plastic badge gave her the right to shackle a child. I felt a cold calm wash over me, the kind of stillness that comes right before a storm breaks. "Is that so?" I asked, crossing my arms. "You really want the real police to come here? Because I think that is a fantastic idea. In fact, let's speed that process up." I pulled out my phone, but before I could dial, I heard the familiar hum of a high-end electric engine pulling into the driveway. A sleek black SUV rolled to a stop, and the silence that followed was heavy with the scent of ozone and impending doom. My wife Sarah stepped out of the car. She didn't look like a mother who had just finished a 10-hour shift at the courthouse. She looked like an avenging angel in a tailored navy blazer. She took one look at Leo in zip ties, one look at the 2 clowns in neon vests, and her face went from tired to lethal in 0.4 seconds. She didn't scream. She didn't yell. She just walked over with a stride that suggested she owned the earth they were standing on. "What is happening here?" she asked, her voice a sharp blade of ice. Margaret didn't know who she was dealing with. "Oh, thank goodness, another rational adult," she chirped, oblivious to the fact that she was walking into a buzzsaw. "Your husband is being very difficult while we process this delinquent for trespassing. We are the HOA Safety Task Force and—" Sarah cut her off with a single raised hand. "Who authorized this task force?" she asked. Margaret blinked, clearly thrown off by the lack of fear in Sarah's eyes. "Well, the board did, of course. I am the president." "And you are?" Sarah reached into her bag and pulled out her leather wallet, flipping it open to reveal her own badge. It wasn't plastic. It didn't shine with fake gold plating. It was the heavy bronze shield of the district attorney's office. "I am Sarah Jenkins, the district attorney for this county, and you are currently committing a series of second-degree felonies, including false imprisonment, impersonating an officer, and child endangerment," she said, her voice echoing off the brick walls of the houses. "My son is 15 years old. You have placed him in restraints without legal cause. You are not a law enforcement agency. You are a neighbor with a power trip and a very expensive lawsuit waiting to happen." The color drained from Margaret's face so fast I thought she might faint. The man Miller started fumbling with his belt, trying to hide the fake badge. "Now wait a minute, we were just trying to keep the neighborhood safe. We didn't know he was your son." "Oh, so it's only a crime if he belongs to someone with power?" Sarah stepped into his personal space, her eyes narrowed. "You put hands on a child. You used zip ties on a minor. Did you read him his rights? Did you follow any protocol other than your own delusions?" "Because I'm calling the sheriff's department right now, and I am personally going to oversee the filing of every single charge I can find in the penal code." The next 20 minutes were a blur of siren lights and heavy boots. Two sheriff's cruisers pulled up, their blue and red lights dancing against the white picket fences like a disco of justice. The real deputies didn't look amused. They looked at Margaret and Miller, then at the zip ties on Leo's bruised wrists, and then at Sarah, who was already dictating the legal precedents for the arrest to the responding sergeant. Margaret tried to play the victim, sobbing about how she just wanted a safe community, but the sergeant just shook his head. "Ma'am, you can't just go around arresting people because you don't recognize them. This isn't a playground. This is the law." As the deputies clicked real steel handcuffs onto Margaret and Miller, the sound of the ratcheting metal was the most beautiful music I had ever heard. Leo was sitting on the bumper of the SUV, his wrists being treated by an EMT while Sarah held his hand, her face fierce and protective. Margaret was wailing about her reputation and her position on the board, but no one was listening. They were being loaded into the back of the patrol cars, the very vehicles they had dreamed of commanding. I stood there watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and bruised purple, realizing that some people think their little bit of influence gives them the right to stomp on the vulnerable. But they always forget that there is always a bigger fish, and sometimes that fish is a mother who knows exactly how to use the law as a hammer. As the cruisers drove away, leaving the neighborhood in a stunned silence, I looked at the gate of our new home. We were going to stay here, and we were going to make sure that the only thing ruling this street was actual justice, not the whims of a bored bully. The lesson was simple: when you build a kingdom of straw, don't be surprised when the truth blows it all down. Justice isn't just about punishment. It's about making sure the people who think they are untouchable finally feel the weight of their own actions. And tonight the HOA president learned that in our family we don't just follow the law, we define it.